I'd like to welcome everybody. A great turnout. This is my second time doing that. The first time I had been mayor for about 1 month, and so I was really nervous. I'm still nervous. But the learning curve is lessened. So I'm actually excited this year to talk about all the stuff that we have going on in the city. And at first, I'd like to recognize city staff because they do a lot of the heavy lifting, the unsung work, and we are very lucky to have the city manager that we do. We're very lucky to have the city staff that we do. They do amazing work. I've had an opportunity now to work with them for a year as mayor and a little bit more than that as council member. So they do an amazing, amazing amount of work every day. Yesterday, we went to Olympia all day. We left at 6:45 in the morning from City Hall. We didn't get back till after 10, doing work for Woodinville, advocating for Woodinville policies, and the staff did a great job of preparation for that, and it was just amazing. That happens on every single day. I'd also like to thank the Chamber and Chateau, always a great event here. Really, really appreciate it. These are some of our partnerships and collaboration that we do every day. My goal as your mayor has always been to collaborate with good people, good groups to do good things. And these are some of the people that Woodinville Chamber, Woodinville Wine Country, we've done some great work with them. King County, we're working on several different fronts with King County to do some things and to prevent some things. So NERTS being one of them. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Eastside Fire. So many of you probably know that I've spent over 30 plus years in different leadership roles in the fire service, and that is public safety is a passion of mine. So emphasizing that, about a little over a year and a half ago, I negotiated a contract with Woodinville Fire to join Eastside Fire. It's been an amazing success for Woodinville. We lowered your tax collection rate by 23% by that move, and we actually improved your service. So one of the key things that we gained was a Core Connect program and a mobile integrative health unit that is staffed with a social worker and an EMT that are trained specifically to respond to people experiencing homelessness and behavioral health issues. And so far, it's been a great success. It was such a good success and such an impressive program that we then negotiated a contract with King County Sheriffs to add that resource and that tool in their toolbox. So that was great. BJ Myers, our chief. As I always say, that I am pretty hard on leaders that step up and do public service, because I think if you're going to step up in that role and serve the public, the public deserves a good job, and we cannot do better than Chief Myers for what we have here in Woodinville. I've had the privilege of working with him for a little over a year, and we're very fortunate. North Shore School District. My path here to Woodinville was essentially driven by North Shore School District. I grew up in Renton, and I was working for the Everett Fire Department, and the commute was killing me. I was missing out. I was having to drive up to Snohomish County through traffic for softball tournaments and all kinds of things. I was missing poker parties and everything else was going on, and so I knew I had to move. I knew I had to move further north. And my research centered around school districts. And at that time, and this was in 1992, my research showed that North Shore School District was the second highest school district according to test scores in the state. It was behind Mercer Island. I wasn't able to afford to move to Mercer Island, so that wasn't going to happen. So I moved to here specifically for the North Shore School District, and I can tell you that the school system has been fantastic to me and my family. I just couldn't ask for better. Both my boys couldn't be prouder of. They're both, my oldest son graduated from the UW. He's doing really well. My youngest son graduates this June from UW, doing well. So I can't say enough about the North Shore School District. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, yesterday we spent a long day, and it was a long day because you're constantly on talking to some very, very powerful and intelligent and influential people. And these are, let me see, we met with all of these yesterday except for Councilmember Perry, King County Council member, but we met with all of them in their office or in different areas and talked about various things important to Woodinville, important to our vision, important to what we're trying to make Woodinville become. Congresswoman Del Bene, I've had a really good relationship with the Congresswoman over the last year. She helped us secure, I had 2 meetings with her individually, and City Manager and I took her staff on a walking tour of the East Rail Corridor, kind of showed her what we're trying to accomplish, and she helped us secure $2.5 million for the East Rail Corridor. So she's been a really good friend. Senator Patty Murray helped us with that, as did Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mike. As we go through kind of some of the specifics here, I think we'll start with 2022 was a big year for Woodinville. One of the big accomplishments that our council got through was adopting a strategic plan. In that strategic plan, we had kind of 4 big priority areas. You see there, built environment, social environment, the natural environment, and the city organization. And within each of those, we had some specific action items we wanted to work on. And so we'll kind of look at how we've done so far already in just a year in with those efforts. First, on growth and infrastructure, obviously the hot topic of just about every one of these events that I've done for the last 7 years, and it's continuing to be. Just kind of generally looking out, we're looking at quite a bit of growth in the next 5 years. So about 2,500 new housing units, and this year largely projects that are already in the pipeline, which could equate to somewhere around 6,000 new residents. For a town of about 13,000, that's pretty big. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do, and these wonderful staff members that we have here today and all the rest that we left at the office to answer phones are responsible for delivering this, and I don't think there's a better group that's up to the task than the group that we have here. Some of the projects, I know everybody likes seeing the pictures. We've seen some of these. We'll have some new ones. Growth, some of the projects. Wooden Creek Village, obviously, working on phase 4 and 5. This is the stuff furthest to the east. More residential and some commercial mixed in to that project. About another 140 units total for those 2 pieces. East Rail Flats, this is the one that actually right after this, you and I are going to swing some sledgehammers on. This is the where Woodgate is, Mitiera and Gobble in that area. They're actually just started demolition yesterday, and that's going to be a big project. There's going to be commercial, residential above, and then on the back, kind of on the left there, you see townhomes. An important piece of this project, and really why this was an important piece for the city, is the extension of our 133rd grid road you see on the far left side there. So it'll be a new grid road through downtown to help ease congestion through our downtown core. The Wine Village, we've all kind of followed that one. This one, you go out there today and you can see dirt moving. They are underway for several phases of that project, including the hotel and the commercial pieces. The Mallbacks project, a big project that we have coming, we're still in the midst of working on. That one will be about 5 phases, hundreds of thousands of square feet of retail, including a brand new and I think their next 50-year store for Mallbacks, so we're very excited about that. Again, a lot of infrastructure comes along with that project, including some new grid roads. We've looked at the Woodinville townhomes. These are up on the West Ridge where the Arabian Horse Farm property was. So there's new townhomes there and some single-family homes. This is a new one. This is the 522 Innovation Center. This is that kind of flat level piece of property you see over north of Target. This will be a new industrial commercial building. And then in order to obviously to facilitate all this and everything else we've got going on in the community, infrastructure continues to be an important investment for our community. The city council has approved a capital improvement budget, which is very daunting, but we're gonna deliver on it. It's $42 million worth of investment. It's over 22 projects. And that continues on our trend. In the last few years, we've been very, very aggressive on maintaining the infrastructure we already have, paving 12 miles of roads in the last 5 years.
This slide is one of my favorite to talk about, is growth and infrastructure. So we're expected, I know Brandon touched on it a little bit, we're projected to experience about 40% population growth over the next 5 years. Nobody that I know of is going to experience 40% population growth over the next 5 years. Woodinville is a very desirable place to live and have a business, and this growth has to be accommodated. And along with that, one of the more exciting projects, if you'll see the old, everybody's familiar with the trestle, this is the new bridge design that's been chosen. It's a pedestrian bridge with a very aesthetic look as you're welcoming into Woodinville. This center structure here will go away. We'll be able to expand this to 8 lanes, and that will alleviate, or at least partially alleviate, our biggest bottleneck coming into Woodinville. And this is kind of our doorstep. Yeah. It's no small thing when people are coming to Woodinville to do wine tasting or go to some other businesses, that this is important. This is your doorstep. This is your welcome to Woodinville, and it needs to improve, and we got some great plans to do that, and that's going to connect to the East Rail Corridor. Okay, this slide we talked about collaboration and partnerships. So in order to do all the things that we are talking about, we absolutely have to collaborate with many groups. This is the projected cost, $17 million of the project, and the following numbers are grants, opportunities that we are receiving or pursuing with different organizations or different entities. And what that means is several things. The more money we can get on different grants, and that's why every morning I get different grant opportunities, and I forward them to Brandon, and he just rolls his eyes, and he actually this morning asked to have grants not go through on my email. Anything with the word grant does not go through on my email. So it's something that I and the council has been pursuing very vigorously. All of this means money that the taxpayer and businesses will not have to contribute to this project, this necessary project for our doorstep to Woodinville.
All right, a couple smaller projects as we've continued working through them on mobility and road safety is one of the council priorities. We are in the process right now. It's quite a process to update our 20-year transportation plan. It's about a 2-year process. By the time we get through all the data collection and come up with the plans and projects that we're going to need to consider in the future to continue accommodating all the growth in the community. That one, obviously, a strong public engagement component. And I know many of you have had the opportunity at different tabling events and storefront studios that we've hosted to give your input on that. So we welcome that always. Accessibility, obviously an important piece as we continue growing downtown and our community. In 2022, we adopted an ADA plan, and we're working on our streetscape plan, updating that. Both of those are years old, so they're due for some updating. Road safety and projects, and this is just a couple that we've realized over the last year. Installing new RRFBs, so those are the flashing lights at the crosswalks. The 145th crossing, as you leave this venue today, you'll see the big hawk signal across the main road. That was a city project and forward compatible for the future East Rail project that's going to come through this area.
Parks and Recreation, it winds up being a top vote getter anytime we send out surveys on what the public wants to see. And we're working really hard on improving our parks and trails. The East Rail Corridor, as we talked about earlier, that's about 42 miles of corridor the northern point of it is Woodinville, and it'll eventually go all the way down to Renton. And then, and I said it Renton, I'm from Renton, so that's how you say it. So then it'll connect into the Sammamish River Trail, all the way up to Snohomish, and then eventually to the Centennial Trail, so you'll have the opportunity to even go all the way up to Canada. it's a great opportunity to again provide mobility and park opportunities. This area that I'm really excited about is just, so that's the fire station, post office is here, so it's just north of that. All of this, we own all of this overgrown area here in the railroad tracks, and partnerships, there's opportunities here to develop this into the trail, but also, you know, we've had talks about making some pickleball courts and some opportunities for some diagonal parking here to really help this area, but beautify this area that's kind of overgrown, and it'll give a lot more opportunities for everybody in Woodinville to enjoy our parks and trails. We just, I think it was September, we voted to make the biggest park in the city, 53 acres of tree canopy, west of Wellington. It's called Wood Trails. And getting back to the partnerships, the way this is being paid for is when we do development, we get park impact fees from developers. And again, no taxpayer money will be spent to develop these trails, because I passed a motion in December tying it into the receipt of park impact fees. So this is a great opportunity to protect 53 acres of tree canopy and make some great trails. And again, this is now our biggest park in Woodinville. Oh, this is a good one. So, so for many years, there's been talk about a permanent stage in Wilmot, and we have such great concerts there, summer concerts, and I got the opportunity, thank you Kimberly for taking part in that last summer, and working with the chamber, we talked about how can we get a permanent stage there, because this stage is temporary. It has to be taken down. There's no permanent electrical to it. It's not only is it a pain, it's not very acoustic. And so working with the chamber and Kimberly, I said, we need to do a permanent stage here where we can have more concerts, we can have plays in the park, we can have art shows, and I wanted to attach a kayak boat launch, paddleboard kayak. So Kimberly and many others, the Woodinville Repertory Group, Woodinville Wine Country came to a council meeting and testified at public comments about how great this would be. The one that really was impactful, the What's Up guy in Bothell that does, Steve, he came, and so when you're on the dais and you want something to pass, because I made the motion to do a permanent stage here, you're always counting votes, right? And so I'm thinking, is this going to pass? Is this not going to pass? And so I tied it into park impact fees to make it revenue neutral. Again, citizens aren't going to pay anything for this. It'll come from park impact fees. But when Steve came and he said during his testimony, he said, the number one question I get renting in Bothell is, can I kayak to Woodinville and go wine tasting? And I didn't literally, but mentally I go, yeah, I got this. And so anyway, that passed, and that was a great collaboration with the chamber. I'm looking forward to, we're starting the process of design and permitting, and it has an opportunity. I've reached, is Jenna here? Right here. Jenna, so, hi Jenna. So another example is I toured the DTG facilities, and we had some very preliminary talks about how could we make this a very environmentally sensitive and sustainable project. So we talked about how can we design and build the stage with recycled materials. So another example of what good partnerships can do. So we're heading down that direction.
Typical elected are getting rid of the golden shovel already, and we haven't even started design yet, but that's, we'll figure it out. We always do. Social infrastructure, another one of the council priorities for the next 5 years. This one, we've made some strides already. If you haven't got a chance today, introduce yourself to Alana Winston. She's our new community engagement coordinator. It's a new position for the city and one we're very excited about to better engage with everybody in the community and make sure that we're hearing you as well. So that was very important to add this last year. Woodinville Police, the mayor talked about all the great work that they're doing. I've got a couple of slides on that, but everything from working with our businesses on how to address some of the shoplifting concerns that plague some of our businesses. Obviously been very busy with all kinds of permitting or police-related permitting activity there. Annually, of course, they hold our Shop with a Cop event, and they always do a great job. This year, served 54 families with 208 children total. About $17,000 in donations raised and received from the community for that event. I know you want to talk about this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of the things we're able to do, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, was we expanded the mental health crisis care with partnership with Eastside Fire, and that was a resource that Woodinville did not have 2 years ago. And we now do, and it's been very successful. On top of that, if you can see these two, that's the front and back of a card. I asked Eastside Fire to give me the resources that we have available to our first responders, so that when I've done it. So at 3:30 in the morning, you have somebody that needs an emergency shelter. You have somebody that has a need, and you have no idea what shelters are open, if there's beds available, what resources are available. So this is the first step into identifying the resources that we have, and I'm working on getting that in electronic form so that when our first responders go out and interact with somebody, they can open up their laptops and figure out what homeless shelters or whatever services are needed right then and there, because there's nothing more frustrating as a first responder in the middle of the night and you want to help somebody. Nobody's picking up their phone. You don't know what's available. So we're working on that, and I think we're making some great strides. This has been a wonderful partnership for Woodinville and also King County. And I'm looking to expand that partnership with King County in the future, expand that program, not in just Woodinville, but more on the east side. So this is yet another example of us being able to do more together than just separately. So I'm really excited about how this is working and the potential for it in the future.
Housing, another council priority for the coming 5 years or so. We're taking big steps right now. We're in the middle of working on our housing action plan. Make sure that everybody can live in Woodinville that wants to live in Woodinville, so that there's a variety of housing types for affordability levels. I'm being very extensive and deliberate about that. Quite a bit of work, and I know, again, there's been quite a bit of public engagement opportunities, and there'll be some more as we wrap that process up. But getting close, I think, on having our first housing action plan. There we go. On economic strength and resiliency, Council in 2022 adopted its first economic development plan for the community. A number of different initiatives wrapped up in that. Some that I know this audience are near and dear to their heart, working on increasing and revising our sign code to be more business friendly, I think. And I know, again, another very important one for this audience is looking at parking specifically in the downtown, and we'll be working on that in the coming year or so.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that. So having worked for decades for the city of Everett, it wasn't lost on me that the homelessness situation in Everett, one, from a human element, the way it was being handled was not good, and it was more than frustrating for me and a lot of the people I supervised. And from a business standpoint, because I'm talking to a business crowd, it drove businesses out of Everett. People I talked to, because I used to do a lot of fire inspections, I talked to business owners, and they weren't going to expand in Everett because of all these things. And so you have, for me, it's I want to help people in their situation. That's just in my blood. It's in my DNA. It's what I did for decades, and it's still what I'm trying to do. On the other hand, I want to help businesses. You guys are the lifeblood of Woodinville, and your businesses and your employees and really add to what we're doing in Woodinville and add to what Woodinville is and is trying to become. So I work very hard on that, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And one of the things, we've done a lot of things that are kind of big and first. And so earlier, I'm not sure if it's another slide coming up, but earlier we talked about the East Rail project, and we're going over there today. They're going to start the demolition. But the city manager, Brandon, talked a little bit about the grid road. Well, the grid road, if you're not familiar with 133rd, it's through US Bank and across to Wood Snow Road over to Little Bear Creek Road. And that is a key thing, because when we're taking down the trestle and expanding that, we need a detour route. That's one. And we need another route for people to come in and out of Woodinville and not just on 175th. So that's a key part. Another part of that project is we were able to negotiate a first in Woodinville. And it's our first workforce affordable housing that has been done in Woodinville since the 80s. And it's the first ever in downtown. And what that target and what it means to you is it's really targeted at employees not only being able to work in Woodinville, but to live in Woodinville. And so that's targeted at what's called 50% AMI, which is area median income. So you couldn't qualify and have over 57,000 household income to qualify to be in those units. And they're by code, they have to be the exact same units. They're not lesser quality, they're the exact same units as the rest of. So that's important. And then also, I think we have some real estate people in the room. This is our first, the townhomes in this project are our first ownership opportunities in downtown Woodinville since probably Chardonnay, and that's probably a late 80s, early 90s project. So we're 30 years, I mean, that's the first ownership opportunities in downtown Woodinville for 30 years. So when we're talking about development, we're talking about infrastructure like roads and affordable housing and parks and trails and other opportunities. So it's really exciting when we get talking about this kind of stuff. You want me to take it? Yep. Okay. Care for environment and ecosystems. This has been another passion that I've worked, those of you know me, I've worked hard on this. And it's another first. We did our first climate action plan where we got a grant. There's the word again, grant, to start our climate action plan. And year before last, I passed again on a grant from the Department of Commerce to install solar panels on the City Hall. They're on now, or they're either complete or close to being complete. So they're on now. Come by City Hall, you can see them, they look great. That'll projected about $11,000 of free electricity to the taxpayers of Woodinville with no emissions. So that was our first climate action, solid, directly targeted climate action plan. Then last budget, last year in December, we were able to pass in the budget to get electric vehicle charging stations in city spots. And the goal for that, for now, is our first foray into that, is to eventually electrify our city fleet. So when you're thinking about that, you're thinking about the pickups and the inspection vehicles and stuff running around town. They'll be able to run around town and then charge overnight and then do it all again for free with little wear and tear and no emissions, and do it all over every day. So we're limited now by supply chains, as a lot of you are pretty familiar with, but eventually we're going to electrify the fleet, and that'll be another big climate action environment plan that we have going for Woodinville. NERTs. Okay, so NERTs. So when I first got on council, NERTs was being discussed in the sites. Okay, I'm going to tell you what NERTs is. It's the Northeast Regional Transfer Station. So everybody calls it the dump in Houghton, right? That's actually a transfer station that transfers the material down to Renton. So during the process of trying to pick a new location, Woodinville unfortunately had a site that made the final 3 lists, and I timed it on the way over here. It's a minute north of here, literally a minute, and we are vigorously opposing the siting of a transfer station in our tourist area. It does not go with what we're trying to build. It does not go with what infrastructure we have. We're trying to mitigate the traffic and that we have through our intersections now, not add to that. So concerts, wine tasting, and other businesses do not go hand in hand with transfer stations. So we actually hired a lawyer. We're heavily engaged in this, and if the county thinks that they're going to put a transfer station in Woodinville, they got a fight coming. So that's something that we spend an incredible amount of energy on. I jumped ahead. So these are good pictures of the solar panels on City Hall. The only thing I couldn't get was Brandon's office is over here, and I wanted him to look at the solar panels when he looked out his window, but I couldn't get it all the way over there. But otherwise, this is a great project. You want to touch on that one?
So the transfer station the mayor's talking about, we do have an opportunity for all of you to get engaged and make sure your voices are being heard as well. That's coming up with a presentation that we're putting together with the county folks on March 15th. That'll be at Woodinville City Hall and on Teams. So make sure that you, if you have that opportunity, make sure you're showing up for that and making sure the county hears your opinion on having a transfer station in Woodinville. Organizational capacity. So this, again, as the mayor kind of started with, one of my favorite parts of this presentation. This is our new staff for the last year. We continue bringing on new talent to the organization and doing great things with that. I do need to pause here. One picture that's not on here is one of my A2s, Kevin, who last year I called out. He's doing an amazing job. I think I traumatized him last year. I said, everybody's doing a great job besides Kevin. But Kevin is doing a great job. We have a lot of lighthearted fun at work, joking around, but it comes from a place of love, and I hope they all know that. So I always throw in a couple of these slides just looking at kind of the general financials of the city. Again, this one every year I say, as long as the red line's below the green line, we're doing great. That gap, and I try not to emphasize this a whole lot around our council, is a pretty big gap, and that's a good thing, but I don't like to tell them that because then they try to figure out ways to spend all that money. On the revenue, our sales tax, again, something that many of your businesses contribute to, continues on the rise. Obviously, we had some little blip there in 2020 for some reason, but it has bounced back since then and continues on its upward trajectory. Construction sales tax, which we dedicate exclusively to construction projects, to capital road projects, continues to increase as well as we see new development projects. Just general, and I know these are some of the categories that are represented in this room this afternoon. Retail, trade, construction, accommodation, and food services, all of those bouncing back from kind of the COVID effects a couple years ago. And one big piece I know, again, many of you are concerned about in this room. One thing that we've heard loud and clear and we're continuing to work on is streamlining our permitting process. We have an amazing staff, but they are definitely overwhelmed at the moment. So how we can be more efficient and try to get permits through the process more effectively is of course, a big priority for us.
Getting close to wrapping this up, but I want to encourage, because it's been helpful and it's been successful, for everybody in the room, stay engaged, stay involved. We can, if you don't take anything away from this other than we can do more together than separately. So having you engaged really, really does make a difference. And I appreciate that. And I see Rich McKee here. He prompted me to talk about something that I haven't talked about. So we talked about the doorstep to Woodinville being that, the first is that trestle bridge. Another thing that I've been working on is the 76 station. So with some partnerships. I can't go into a lot of details, but I think I found a way to get that sign down and start work on that. And the reason why Rich McKee prompted me to think about that was, and as well as DTG and Schnitzer Steel. And so my idea is that we can take the sign down, use the recycled material to pay for that demolition. And I know Rich is an avid sign collector. So there is an opportunity with that 76 station sign to add to that collection, or if there's any other collections, it's through some not determined process yet, we're going to figure out a way to get that sign to somebody. So we're going to recycle all the material and ideally get the sign itself and clean up that site. And so we'll have a much more aesthetic doorstep to our city that it deserves. So. We're going to hang out for a little while. If you guys have any more questions, Brian and I will be here for a little while until we got to apparently go swing a sledgehammer at something. So appreciate your attendance, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.